Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. I'm Paul McCarthy, and today I'm joined by Charlotte Melia. Right, did I get that right? I've done it wrong. Was it Melia?
No, that was spot on.
Right, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do another clap, editing people. Right, I suddenly started to confuse me. It's Melia, not Melia. Melia, right.
Melia.
Okay, get it right. Right, let's do it again. Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. I'm Paul McCarthy, and today I'm joined by Charlotte Melia from Dazzle and Fizz. Charlotte, it's great to have you with us today. Could you just start off by giving us a feel for your business and your story since you started your business?
Absolutely. Lovely to be here, Paul. So Dazzle and Fizz is a creative event studio based in Guildford, Surrey. We specialise in creative, immersive, inclusive and sustainable events, both in the UK and globally. The business turns 10 this September. Very exciting. September the 25th will be a decade old. And me and my business partner bootstrapped the company from an initial investment of £47.50, which was the sum of my bank account at the time, to now a multi-million turnover. We have since taken on 2 rounds of investment. So we're founder-led but investment-backed. And we have a team of 25 here based in Guildford.
Wow. And geography, do you cover the world? Any particular?
Yeah, we're global. So historically, we have specialised in the ultra high net worth private market.
Right.
That business was very much concentrated in West London, as one would expect.
Yeah.
But having said that, we did travel the world. So we did parties in the UAE, Monaco, Sardinia, Portugal, Nigeria, in Lagos. So we got to see many, many amazing things. But now we've slightly changed our focus and we are now specialising in the corporate market as well. And that business is largely in the UK at the moment, but we are beginning a transition to expanding in the Middle East.
Wow. Okay. Big opportunity then over there.
Yeah, for sure. I came back from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia just last week. We were flown out with the Department of International Trade and Enterprise UK for a delegation, and the opportunities in KSA are unrivaled really globally for event and media professionals at this time.
Amazing. And why did you start the business? So it's nearly 10 years ago. What happened? How did it all happen?
Well, I started slightly before 10 years, but as a sole trader, much more of a casual arrangement. And honestly, the catalyst was having my son.
Okay.
So prior to that, I was an actor. And whenever I felt too poor, I left acting and went back into sales. And I really enjoyed the money of sales, but I was never very passionate about what I was selling. And then I really enjoyed the passion of acting, but didn't like the fact that I couldn't afford a Starbucks. So when I became pregnant with my son, I thought, okay, what can I do here? I knew I didn't want to tour around the country acting anymore because I wanted to be close to home. And I knew that I didn't want to do something soul destroying because I wanted to be able to pass on my passion to my children. So I decided to start my own thing. In the very, very early days, Dazzle and Fizz was a children's entertainment company.
Right.
And we started on the Isle of Wight. So it was literally the 50 quid we had, we spent on a costume, a boombox, and some handwritten postcards. And that was all we could afford. And then why I chose to do this as a career is that it started to become bigger than me, if that makes sense. So it was no longer just a passion project or a side project. I could see a real market need for what we were offering. I loved the fact that our whole business model was based around making people happy and making memories. Events can sometimes be seen as somewhat frivolous. We have now developed to a much more meaningful, purpose-led program. But even back then, when it was largely children's parties, I, as a parent, could see such great value in creating these memories for parents and their children that couldn't be replicated. So yeah, I think I fell in love with it, to be honest. And so in 2013, I moved to Surrey and formed the limited company.
Right. And when did you start employing people? When did it turn from being a
it's a good question. I think it was 2014.
Okay, soon.
The first member of staff, and I remember being terrified at that prospect at the time. I took on a PA, And then in 2015, I got my first proper offices. So prior to that, it was being done in a room attached to the side of the house. But first offices, and then we scaled up the team. And the first time I started to scale a team, I got it wrong. And
Right.
then
Interesting.
I scaled too quickly. I took on too many people. I wasn't balancing it with the bottom line. So gave myself a slap on the wrist, learned the hard way. Then scaled the team up for the second time. I got us to 8 staff just before COVID, and then COVID-19 hit. So it was an events business that decimated the team. We were a team of 4 in the end.
Right.
And then since COVID, we've been going from strength to strength. So we're currently at 25 staff in the office, and we've just today taken on another 3.
Oh, wow.
Which is very exciting. And I've got another 3 to fill by September.
Fantastic. That's rapid growth recently then.
Yeah, very much so. It's, to be honest, Paul, it's been since we flitted to corporate. It really has changed the business. And what was key in that, it was the right time.
Yeah.
I think if we'd have tried this real corporate focus a few years ago, honestly, we wouldn't have been ready. But having a decade's worth of ultra high net worth event planning under our belt, operating at the highest level, and making sure we got all of those processes and procedures as tight as possible, actually then it felt very easy to move across to corporate, but that it was purely a timing issue why it felt that way.
Wow. So whilst it seemed like a big jump, you made it quite a small one in a way, in that you taken what you had as far as you could and made the jump.
Exactly that. I see that first time founders cut their teeth on a B2C, second time founders go for B2B. I feel like I've done both, but in one business.
Right, yeah.
Because I was only 24 when I started the company. Fresh out of university, didn't really have any experience, don't have a family history of operating big businesses. So it was very much learning by my own mistakes. So now at 37 and coming from things from a more reflective, knowledgeable place,
yeah,
it has been a lot easier.
Fantastic. And what you sort of spoke at the beginning about the business. What's the real secret sauce? What do you do differently to your competitors, do you think?
It's all service.
Right.
So rather than saying we're client focused, we are client obsessed here.
Right.
And that, I think, has been the real key differentiator for us in the corporate market, actually, is that we are treating our corporate clients as if they were an ultra high net worth private individual. We're giving them that same level of care and attention, the same level of detail, the same level of process and procedure. Everything's transparent. And we always under promise, over deliver. So when you've mapped out what the event is, we then ask the planners, okay, what's your wow? And then we need to find a wow within that the client's not expecting, or a way to exceed above and beyond what the original plan was.
And you always get that wow? Yes.
Well, we have a 98% retention rate.
Blimey, that is high.
Pretty unheard of.
Yeah.
And that's because we don't have a volume of clients. We have value, around 100 a year. And yeah, we really focus on maintaining those relationships over a long period, as opposed to trying to, max out on one event for maximum profit. I'm not interested in that. I'd rather build a long-term relationship with the client. It's
interesting, isn't it? Because everyone tries to win more clients, when it's much better to keep the clients you've got and put focus on that. It's work, but in a lot of ways it's easier than winning all the time. So,
well, if you look at your customer acquisition cost versus just maintaining an existing client, it's completely illogical to keep going after new ones, for me. If obviously you have to be able to maintain them.
Yeah.
But if you can, you get such a better lifetime value out of those clients, both financially and I think in terms of like your own satisfaction as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Knowing that you can keep coming back and bettering yourself and never becoming complacent.
So in your sort of development and your time of running your business, has there been a particular person that's inspired you?
Yeah, for sure. My business partner.
Okay.
Would be the number one person who's inspired me. And I think without her, I know I couldn't have got to this stage, and I'm sure she'd say vice versa. We're completely different characters. We're like yin and yang. So as you probably could tell, I'm maybe the extrovert character of the two. So I'm the maverick, crazy ideas, million miles per hour, typical entrepreneur character. Whereas my business partner, Christy, is far more introverted. She's the creative. She really focuses on the aesthetic and the brand and the direction. And I think she's been my biggest inspiration, because where I've fallen down, she's been able to shine a mirror on that and say, hey, maybe you didn't do this so great. What can we do next time? And that's really helped us both to grow, having such an open line of communication.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I've had loads of help from my investors, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, touch wood, so far, everyone's been lovely. You hear horror stories, don't you?
Yeah.
But for my pre-seed and my seed, I've been really lucky. It's a great bunch of people who I know I can pick up the phone to any time and are coming from a point of experience. They're pretty much all exited founders as well, apart from a couple. So they understand the operator position and our struggles. And our chairwoman as well, Sarah David, who was appointed last September. She's been a real guiding light for me, particularly in this transition from the private to the corporate market.
That's amazing. So there's a real web of people that you've got a sort of support structure there by the sounds of it as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Brilliant. And what's been your biggest learning, would you say?
Oh, I've had so many. I've mucked up so many times.
Worked.
Well, yeah, I've managed to save myself at the last minute. The first learning I had early on was regarding your net profit and your bottom line. That I learned the hard way, because, and I'm speaking to other SMEs or sole traders, small businesses, etc. A lot of people can think like, oh, if there's money in the bank, I'm fine. Or I can see that I can pay for the next 3 months, I'm fine. And we don't always take into consideration the idiosyncrasies of cash flow, of our assets, of net. And that's something I'm never personally going to be proficient in. I'm never going to be an accountant. It's not my skill set. So having someone amazing in finance is absolutely crucial. And I think if you're going to spend money early on, for me, I'd spend it on that. Particularly if you're a natural salesperson, because if you are a natural sales marketeer, you're going to bring the business in. It's then keeping that money in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That I wasn't so good at, for sure. So I learned that early on. And I think I also learned that your team is everything. And one bad hire can inflict and impact the whole office environment. Getting the right culture fit for me is more important than having the right CV or coming from one of the big four. I don't care. You need to be a great culture fit with a fantastic attitude. Attitude is king, and a really strong work ethic and openness to learn. If a candidate has those four attributes, they're way more likely to be successful here than if they've got a shining CV.
That's really interesting. What techniques do you use during the recruitment process to find those type of people?
So again, we've got it wrong so many times in the past, horribly wrong. And we realized it actually wasn't our skill set. Neither myself or my business partner had the time really over and above anything to really, really understand the candidates. So we've now brought in an external person into the fold who's managing our recruitment. And so far we've had fantastic hires this year. So again, it was seeing a gap in our knowledge and a gap in our skill set, trying to fill it ourselves, realizing we couldn't. And then as soon as operationally the business could support that function, functioning.
Perfect. Sounds brilliant. So there's been a lot of challenges for business over the last few years, whether you talk about Brexit, COVID, the economy fun of last year, and into this year. Obviously, you mentioned COVID, and I imagine that was a huge thing for you. Obviously, you mentioned that. But what changes have you made to your business during that sort of time?
We completely flipped it. So when COVID hit, we were 100% reliant on event income. That was all we had. So overnight, we were 95% down.
Right. God.
a trickle, the odd thing that you could do legally, but there was hardly anything you could do. So we had to put up the shutters. So I realized the only thing we could do was online. So we pivoted the business and we launched a product called Vesta, which was a work from home kids edutainment service where we sold it B2B. So we sold it to clients like Meta and Blackstone, and we had great companies on there. And there was about 3,500 people in the end who'd signed up to the program. And every day from, I think it was like 10 till 4, we ran live online classes for children in different educational topics.
Oh God, why didn't I know about this?
No,
That changed my life during COVID.
well, that's what the parents were saying, and it was so sweet because we had people from all around the world in the end, and you'd see a Manhattan apartment, and you could see the parent in the background with their earphones on, working frantically away, but knowing their child for that next 40 minutes to an hour was completely engrossed in what we were doing, and they could crack on with their work.
If only I'd know. You had some big names there.
Yeah, we were, again, we went to market and tried to sell, and fortunately it worked. We capped it at 3,500 because we thought, okay, we've never even done this before. That is enough people. But it was lovely, and we were very naive in terms of tech prior to that, so it was a really great learning curve. I started to educate myself on everything from AR to AI, NFTs, tech. I learned about the VC space. I started doing VC pitches in the States just to get my head around what a Series A might look like and beyond. So yeah, that really changed the face of the business. I think not only in terms of our tech capabilities, and we now do hybrid events, but also in our ambition. We realized that we could have global ambitions and they could be fulfilled. And then directly after COVID, we raised our seed round of investment. So yeah, I think that was all down to the fact that I'd had that year or so to be able to focus on learning.
So that's really interesting. So in some ways, COVID must have been a good thing, because it sounds like it's widened where the business could go, and you've grown rapidly since then.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was a disaster cash-wise. And we had to take out the CBILS loan with the government, and then we didn't really get much help as an events business, but anything we could get would take. We survived. We didn't go bust, thank goodness. And it's sad, so many did. And then, but since then, the aftermath, and I think this is what a lot of SMEs are finding, not just in events, that okay, the business has come back, but perhaps not with the strength that they thought it would. And then we've had the war and we've had cost of living, but you've still got debt and hangover from COVID. So I think that's where people have come unstuck. But yeah, for us, it was actually a positive catalyst for change in the end. But I think that's credit to the 4 people that were remaining, to be fair. We just knuckled down. We're on our computers 18 hours a day, every day. We all put on about 2 stone each. And
didn't we all?
But yeah, we survived.
It sounds like it's something you've always been good at, though, that sort of failing and then jump into the next thing and looking positive and trying something else. You know, that was massive, but it sounds like that was a sort of culture within the business. Is that fair? Completely.
I mean, we're scrappy. I always said I wanted to bootstrap the company to the first million turnover before we took any external investment, which I did. So to get to that first million turnover, anyone who's done it will know you have to be incredibly scrappy. And I was trying to bring up a family at the same time. I'm a single mum. My son has severe autism. My business partner has 4 children. So there was other stuff going on as well. So you really had to have grit and determination to get used to that. And I think that is something which is undervalued in business. So all the spotlights are put on the venture-backed startups that have come out of the accelerators or come out of Oxbridge. And that's all good and well. And, you know, credit to anyone who does that. There are super, super phenomenal talents. But it's a shame that there's not more kudos put around, particularly state school educated or underprivileged founders who've come from perhaps more challenging backgrounds and have just bootstrapped it off their own grit.
Yeah.
Because it teaches you a whole new set of skills that then when you do take on investment, you sure as hell don't waste their money.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know the value of it.
So let's look into the future a bit. So what are going to be the challenges in your sort of industry and where you are over about the next 5 years?
From a personal perspective, for us, it's all going to be about scaling
Right.
now. We do have an aggressive plan ahead of us to scale to exit, or part exit, or some sort of signifier, really, that we've got the business to the size we want to for now. And I think that is going to be our biggest challenge. And I did a workshop with Daniel Priestley, the entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and he's saying that between 2 and 10 million turnover, you're in the desert.
Yeah.
And it was the most eye-opening workshop I've ever been to, because I thought, oh great, I'm just in the desert. It's okay. It's okay. And he was saying 10 million turnover is the oasis, and by then you've got structures and principles and the right amount of staff for the first time in place. So we are for sure in the desert right now, and would like to get to the oasis.
Yeah.
And from there on in, who knows? I mean, I could as easily be running this business till I retire as I could exiting, running for 5 years. And I've no idea right now. I just know that I need to get it to that 10 million turnover point, and that level of governance before we can make the next decision. Events as a whole, I think it is a really challenging time for the industry. The private market is very, very unreliable this year. I think people have said they're around 35% down on average. And the corporate market, I'm finding it's thriving, but it's only thriving if you're delivering the right messaging.
Right.
So long gone are the days of frivolous events or alcohol-laden booze ups. It's not the vibe. You really do have to demonstrate ROI for stakeholders. You have to demonstrate your purpose and be purpose-led. Have to demonstrate sustainability and what you're trying to do to achieve that. And I think events has moved from a sort of middle management level decision to something which is appearing in boardrooms. This is now a C-suite level decision, because with remote working, home working, hybrid working, office cultures around the country and around the world have been shattered.
Yeah.
And how do you rebuild those? Well, you can rebuild them with meaningful events.
Right.
We see our events as becoming the new coffee machine moments, water cooler moments, where you actually all get together and bond and form community. So yeah, we're really enjoying the market. I think some others maybe have a little way to go to catch up with that methodology. But for anyone who is being forward thinking, I think the next 5 years is going to be a great time for growth for everybody.
Okay. That's great. And you talked about your aspirations. It's about growth, scaling, taking the business to the oasis over the next 5 years as well then.
That is definitely the plan.
Brilliant. And let's look back a bit. If you could start again, what would you do differently?
I'd go B2B from day one.
Right. Okay.
It is, B2C is a whole different animal. And you do like 10 times the work for 1% of the reward. So yeah, I probably would have gone into B2B from the off. I wouldn't have wasted so much money.
Right.
I for sure have done that over the years. And I would have researched and learned far more about the importance of hiring and recruitment early on.
Right. Hiring good people. Yeah, got you. Okay. And what about your 18-year-old self? What would you tell yourself if you could give yourself a bit of advice when you're 18?
When I was 18, I think I'd say, don't worry that you haven't got it all figured out yet.
Yeah.
And don't worry that you are different and you don't have a very, very set plan to go to law school or whatever, or be a doctor. You will find your own path, and it is going to be different from everybody else's, but that's okay. It's what you're meant to be. And I probably would have told myself, you're an entrepreneur.
Right. Yeah.
And that's okay. Because I didn't realize that for a really long time. And I think if I'd have known it earlier on and could have owned it, maybe I would have had more success in earlier years.
Amazing. Brilliant advice. Is there any new projects you're working on at the moment that you'd like to elaborate on at all?
So we've actually gone the opposite way, and prior, about 6 months ago, a year ago, we had a few other projects going on post-COVID. So we tried a summer camp for kids on the Isle of Wight. We built an app, which it's on the App Store. It's called the Dazzle and Fizz Club. And we were trying all these different projects coming out of COVID because we didn't know what the landscape was going to be for the market moving forward. And I met with a consultant from Deloitte last week, and they said the same. They're like, before, you used to be able to go and consult in a business and be like, A plus B equals C. This is how business works. But now the landscape is so fast changing, evolving. There is no formula anymore for business. You have to be so reactionary to be able to keep up. So I've lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
New projects.
New projects. So we've actually got rid of all the auxiliary projects, and we've simplified and clarified our offering.
Yeah.
Which was one of our big OKRs for this year, simplify and clarify. And we've split into 2 departments and teams, one which specializes in the private market and one which specializes in the corporate market. And that's going to be our focus. So we're doing some really cool stuff for McDonald's at the moment. That's one of our biggest clients. And I can't tell you anything that's coming up, but at the moment we're delivering the Golden Arches at a range of festivals across the UK.
Right. Oh, amazing.
That's a really fun project. We've absolutely loved working on it. That's been amazing. And for Meta as well, one of our other great clients, we've been doing some really cool stuff this year, like a wellness week where we had a kitten cafe and goat yoga and saging and crystal healing and Tai Chi, sound bathing. So every day here is a new project, to be honest, because we have to deliver our client's vision as opposed to ours. And to give you an idea, at any one time, we have about 10 proposals on the go.
Wow.
As well as what we have to deliver.
Yeah.
So to be able to deliver that volume of work and maintain the standard, it was vital for us to simplify our offering and be really sure on what we do and what we do as events.
Amazing. Amazing. Charlotte, what's your contact details if anybody wants to get hold of you? What's the best way of getting hold of you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's Charlotte Melia from Dazzle and Fizz if you search, or feel free to email me, which is charlotte@dazzleandfizz.co.uk.
Great. Fantastic. Charlotte, it's been fantastic to talk to you. It's been really, really, really good and a real insight into you and your business. I think people will learn a lot by watching this video. Thank you for your time and all the best for the future and reaching your oasis.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Charlotte.